Hello, everyone. My name is Chris, and welcome to the Comic Cave podcast. And as always, I'm here with my hetero life mate, Mr.
Russ.
And today we are joined by Mr. And just introduce yourselves.
Gabriel Valentine.
And
Mark Bernal.
These gentlemen are from the Lizards of Digital Doom. Did I say that correctly?
Lizard.
That works too.
Coming up next on Comic Cave podcast. All right, everyone, welcome back and welcome to, and this is also the Bosco, the bear killing dog, but welcome to Comic Cave Podcast. Today we have a special episode for you guys. Russell, tell the audience who we have today. Oh my God.
So you guys are actually two parts of two separate entities, right? So the comic Digital Lizards of Doom, am I saying that one right now? I read over your press release and everything. Cool. Okay, I got it better than him. Bet. And then also Lesser Known Comics, is that the publishing company?
That's me.
Yes.
Yeah. And
Okay.
14 other people that wouldn't all fit in this Zoom. Zoom.
Nice.
It would be
Nice.
like the Brady Bunch right now if like everyone was in.
Definitely feel that. Hey, it takes a community in order to grow, right? So you guys are already building it up. So before we get into all of that, why don't you guys introduce each one of those a little bit? Who are you with Digital Lizard of Doom? What is that? And then what is Lesser Known Comics? Sorry.
Yeah, so Digital Lizards of Doom is a space fantasy adventure series aimed towards young adults, but also just people of all ages. And it represents everything that I love about pop culture. We like to call it a love letter to pop culture. It's just crammed full of Easter eggs in every single book. People are still reading book one. People who are catching up on book one or book 2 and 3 right now are reading book 1 and going like, dude, I've read book 1 like 4 times and I'm still catching like more Easter eggs and more references to things I never knew. So that's kind of like our shtick, if that's what you want to call it. Like, I just love that in film and TV and in comics.
Yeah.
So I wanted to put those in my stories. And then it's a crazy book. It's a crazy story. And luckily, Mark at Lesser Known Comics is also crazy enough to publish this crazy story. So thank you, Mark. I'll let him take it from here.
Yeah. So we're a pretty brand new indie publisher. We've only been around for a little bit more than a year. Started with me making some books on my own. I was working with a few artists doing concept art. My initial intention was just to pick one of them and, work on my own book with them. But then I was like, well, why don't we make 3 stories? And then they served as a lightning rod to other artists that would come on and they would say, hey, can I make a comic book with you guys? Some were working on script I was writing, but some were also coming in with their own creator-owned content. Mm-hmm. And then summer of 2021, me and Gabe first started really, chatting seriously about, hey, what if you brought Digital Lizards of Doom over? And then in the fall, we made that happen. And then, me and Gabe started just hitting it off because we have a lot in common, both playing music in kind of not the exact same indie music scene, but because he was in Southern California and I was in Northern California. Mm-hmm. But definitely like picking up on obscure references, of like, I quoted a song from like a real underground person, MC Lars. And he was like, is that an MC Lars reference you just made? And I was like, yeah. He's like, oh, I used to tour with him. And I was like, small world, So, but yeah, we started printing the books. And now we're working on book 3. We got the Kickstarter going right now. It is an insane love letter to pop culture. There's everything from, Star Wars references to, giant, like kaiju style battles and stuff like that, So it's been a fun one to geek out on while also, doing real work, I guess.
Fun. So you guys both said that you met actually more through like the music industry and stuff. I'm going to get a little bit more into this a little later, but definitely great company. We also work within the music industry ourselves, and I definitely have some questions to dive into that. But what was it that got you guys into comics to begin with? Like, when was your start on that? What made you want to start a publishing company or work with a publishing company? What made you want to start the comic? That's a loaded question. I'm sorry.
Okay. I think I got my first comics from a garage sale. I was with my dad and we were driving home, and there was this guy. He just had boxes and boxes of comics, and I mean, I don't know how old I was. I'm guessing 10, I think. And actually, even before that, my uncle, we used to trace over comics that he lived in Cincinnati at the time. So anytime he came to San Diego, so I was familiar with the concept of comic books, and I'd read like the funny pages, but I never, when you're a kid, you go wherever your parents go, wherever your parents take you. So I didn't have, my parents were into comics, so I didn't have access to comic book shops. I didn't even really know those existed. And but when I was at this garage sale, I got a whole bunch of really old Indiana Jones comics. There's some Superman stuff in there, and that's when I just fell in love with the world. And I just remember sitting in my bed and just reading these stories, and I just thought it was so cool how I was like, this is like a movie, but it's like not like a movie. I just remember kind of thinking that, and I'm like, wait, like you could write something like this. Like I could write something like this. I want to make stories. And so, and it wasn't until years later, I got into music first. Like after that, I love the storytelling element of art. And so all my songs, I was in punk bands, metal bands, rock bands, all this different stuff. So every song I would write, at least lyrically, had some supernatural element to it. It was like goblins and witches and warlocks and wizards and all this kinds of stuff. And I started realizing as I got older, I was like, music is cool, but it'd be really cool to write an actual story. So I kind of came up with this story. And at the time it wasn't called Digital Lizards of Doom. And Pineapple Pete, who's like the main villain, he's an ancient pineapple demon. His name was Teddy. And he was just this guy who went around galaxies and different planets, and like he would hijack planets. He would like close all these planets in like a simulated world, and then he would drag these planets to his star. And so his star was dying, so he would like capture these planets, make them feel like they were safe, and then he would throw these planets in his star so he could fuel his star so his planet wouldn't die. And that idea just evolved over years and years of me just having this story in the back of my head. And so eventually I was helping other people write their podcasts, and I was writing content for websites and articles and all this different stuff. And I said, I'm just going to sit down and finish this thing that I've just had in the back of my head. It was like almost like poisonous because it was just sitting there not getting fulfilled. And I wrote it out. I wrote Digital Lizards of Doom out, and Teddy's name changed to Pineapple Pete, and a lot of the other characters, their names changed to what they are now. And it was a short story, and it just kept getting bigger because I wanted to. I had a beginning, a middle, and end, but then every time I feel like I wrapped something up, I wanted to expand on each character. So it just got a little wild, and now it's an 8-book series, and I'm like, why did I do this? So and it's a massive epic. It's like I wanted to make something on the level of the Odyssey. I love Greek mythology and Norse mythology, and so I wanted to make something on that level, at least mythologically. And so there's a lot of research and time and energy that went into it, but I'm loving it. It's like it's that fight, right? That you're trying to slay this dragon so you can get with the queen. So you gotta like or the princess, I guess a queen would be taken. Never mind, scratch that. But yeah, you gotta slay the dragon so you can get, impress the princess, and so it's like it's that struggle. But I love it. I love Digital Legends of Doom so much.
Beautiful, beautiful. So how did the printing press, the publishing company, Lesser Known Comics, how did you come about to that?
I didn't really have aspirations to do a publishing company. It was only until I was starting to see like that demand of new creators, indie creators looking for a place to come. I think probably because we started during quarantine, places like Image and Dark Horse, they weren't really accepting any new submissions and stuff like that, especially ones that didn't have like, kind of like a track record or like a full story arc already done and stuff like that. Because I grew up, watching X-Men cartoons and Spider-Man cartoons, Batman the animated series. But I didn't have much money growing up as a kid, like a lot of people, right? So like, getting hands on physical books, that's a whole different ball game. So now in my adult life, when I can afford comics, it's like getting deleted scenes for all these stories that, I already was in love with, right? So just imagine like, your favorite movie and then someone being like, actually, there's 20 hours of unseen footage. And you're like, what? So that's been really great. But now I've been so, pulled into the indie comic scene that it's like, 95% of what I read is all, stuff coming from indie comics. Yeah. Sometimes actually last night I got to sit down and read some X-Men, but most of the time it's indie comics.
Sweet.
With you guys' comics, it sounds like a great comic. I would like for you guys to give us a quick rundown of the first two issues, and also, like, you guys mentioned a bunch of nostalgic stuff going into the comics, Star Wars references and stuff. Like, what are some deep cuts in those issues that you guys have? Give us a quick rundown of that.
Oh yeah, I love these types of questions. So,
I got visual aids here.
yeah. Man, I wouldn't even know where to begin. So it's really cool. It's been so cool. I love when people interact with the story. And Mark, if you go to the first appearance of Pineapple Pete in book 1, where he's pulling all this stuff out of the boxes. So what's really cool, someone recently just noticed that if you look on the right side of the page, there's all the boxes next to him are like references to different genres of pop culture. There's cyberpunk, anime, video games, puzzles, adventure, fantasy. And someone was asking me, people have been cracking the code because there's hints to how the rest of the books are going to play out, and even how the books are going to end. There's hints the entire time, like right in front of people's faces. And it's been really cool. I've gotten some messages now that people have read book 2. They're like, hey, is this guy actually a bad guy, or is this what's going on? And I'm like, I guess you're just gonna have to wait and see. And they're like, I noticed this book is more in the sci-fi range. Is there going to be a cyberpunk book? And I'm like, there is a cyberpunk book. Like, book 7 is the cyberpunk book. And they're like, oh crap. And so they're starting to put the pieces together. It's like a big conspiracy board. But even though most of the references are there for fun, even the Easter eggs that we leave in the book are specific to that book for a reason. So for example, in book 1, Dizzy says to Dana Deathly, okay, I get it. It's dangerous to go alone, which is a reference to Legend of Zelda. And his journey is going to unfold very similarly to how Link's journey has evolved throughout the Legend of Zelda franchise, and specifically in the sense that a hero is always reborn That's the official statement that Nintendo released, I think like 4 or 5 years ago, that Link, there is multiple timelines of the Link story, and Link is just this hero that's continuously reborn. And that's a huge theme that gets explored later in the Digital Lizards of Doom books, is that every time, it's one of the reasons why the artwork changes with each book, is because Pineapple Pete loses control at some point in the storyline, and he restarts the game, and he changes the graphics card, as we call it, so that changes the way the world looks.
That's super cool.
So like even those hints, like, yes, they are there to be silly, and people go, oh, that's, I get that, but also there are very specific clues to how this thing is going to resolve itself in the end. So
each book has like its own genre, so to speak, both art style and like focuses on different types of pop culture.
Yeah, it's the same continuous story, because some people are like, oh, it's an anthology. It's like, it's not an anthology. It is one, like each book picks up only a few moments after the last book. So it's just one continuous story. But so for example, book one is about Dizzy Doom, and Dizzy Doom is very much inspired by like American and Eastern European pop culture, which is a little bit, their artwork style is a little bit more rough. We wanted to do an homage to like heavy metal and Mobius. So that's why the artwork looks a little bit more like a Mobius style. We tried to capture that avant-garde kind of style. And book two is about Commander Echo, and Commander Echo is very much inspired by 1950s, 1960s sci-fi, science fiction, horror, adventure. So the artwork in that is very whimsical, kind of. There's the shading, the colors are a little bit different. There's like these huge lush environments, and it's just a little edgier. It's like a little bit darker, and the robots, yeah, just like, the big bad robot technology is coming to get you kind of vibe. Book three, which is we have the Kickstarter running right now, is Carrie Lingell, and she does a really cool mashup with anime and American style. So, and that book three is about Dana Deathley, who's inspired by Japanese, or has a lot of inspiration from Japanese pop culture. So she really captures that magical, like fantasy fairy world. There's like tons of magic and, purple smoke, and everything's shiny and reflective, and the water's sparkly, and the trees are ginormous, and just these really cool, like colorful anime style worlds. And then so on and so on. Each book is going to follow suit like that. So,
I love how cohesive you're tying in each kind of like feel or genre with the art style and some of those references with that. I was actually looking at Carrie, and that was like one of the first things I noticed with her style was a lot. It's very vibrant, pops a lot. I noticed a lot of like the anime references. I looked at her Instagram. She had a bunch of different anime stuff on there as well. But it also looked like her style specifically, it's like she's into fashion. I noticed like there's certain things with clothes and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
How did you guys, like, how do you vet somebody like that? Like, to find this person that you felt like was going to fit this next book in your story and your art?
It's hard, man. Like, and I'm not even trying to like pat myself on the back or anything. I'm just stating it's really hard because I found Carrie knows this because I've told her a million times, but I found Carrie on, oh man, I can't remember the site, but it was like a freelance artist site, and I was just scrolling through the catalog, and I typed in anime hashtag, and all these different things, because that's what I was looking for. I was looking for someone who could really capture that anime style feel, but I didn't want it to look like manga, because that's not what we were going for. And almost the opposite. I wanted a super colorful, bright, shiny world for this adventure. And so, I saw Carrie, and then I saw her artwork, and just like fell in love instantly. And it was scary. It was hard because I'm like, obviously you can hit up an artist and you can send them your story. I mean, even if you have the budget they're asking for, they can be like, I don't really like the story. So I was really worried about that. And I hit up her and like 2 other people, and she never got back to me. And then one of the other people I hit up got back to me, and I was like, and I hope they don't see this interview, but I was like kind of bummed that they got back to me because I didn't really like want to use their artwork. And I was like, oh man, but all right, beggars can't be choosers. So I was going to go with this person. And then I noticed on Carrie's Instagram that she was friends with one of my friends who's also an incredible artist, Justin McKee. And I was like, I texted him like right away. I said, hey, Carrie Lingell? And he's like, oh yeah, she's a good friend of mine. Like, we've done a ton of conventions together. Like, sometimes we're right next to each other. I was like, can you introduce me? And he's like, yeah. And so he introduced me. And then she's like, oh my gosh, I never saw your email. That site that you emailed me on is like sometimes kind of weird. And so then I said, hey, like real quick, like I already got an artist, but would you mind like sending, like, can I send you my story? And she's like, yeah. And I sent it to her and she's like, oh my gosh, I love it. I'll do it. And then I had to go and tell another artist. I said, hey, like maybe we can work on something else another time. But, I got the prom queen, so I'm going to the dance with her, kind of thing. So like, but yeah, it's hard because I just reach out and a lot of the times you don't hear back or they don't. They're like, no, and you don't know why. They're just like,
Right.
nah, not interested. But I've been incredibly lucky, which kind of makes it worse because I'm getting used to it now. So now I'm like, crap. Yeah. So now I'm like, shit.
No, man, keep the standard. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I've gotten everybody I wanted to work with so far, which is just blowing my mind. And we have some pretty crazy people coming because we're in production for book 7 right now.
So you already have all the other artists on lock for each book?
We have everybody right now is already locked in except for book 6 and book 8. Book 8 is massive. And so that's going to be all kinds of crazy stuff happens in book 8. So I'm going to get to 7, finish 7. And I think I'm going to take not a break, but I'm going to regroup after 7. And then I'm going to put a whole new team together for book 8 because it is huge. And I want to make sure that, and it's the final installment for this story. So I want to make sure like everything's perfect. And but yeah, we're vetting a couple people for book 6 right now. But yeah, for 4, 5, and 7, I already have artwork for all 3 of those books. So we're rocking and rolling on that. It's pretty wild.
Awesome. We saw that you guys, the Ray Porter, like how did you guys come about doing that or meeting him? Because I know he does Uxas from the Justice League and Zack Snyder, and he does other things. Like, how did you guys do that?
Also, deep cut right there. I love that you call them Uxas because, like, yeah, that's amazing.
Dark side to the Omega beams, but in Justice League, Zack Snyder's Justice League. He's Uxas first, then he's Dark Side later when he has the Omega beams.
Yeah, that's so awesome, man. Yeah, and so I love Zack Snyder. I fell in love with him back in whenever 300 came out. I loved Dawn of the Dead, but it wasn't like my favorite movie or anything. And then when 300 came out, I watched it twice in theaters the same day. Like I watched it, I went, and I don't think I bought another ticket. I think I just like walked back in the movie theater and like watched it again. But yeah, so I've just kind of followed his career for a long time. And then a good friend of mine had a podcast, and they had like, I mean, so many people from his movies on their podcast at different times. They had Gal Gadot, they had General Swanwick. I can't remember his name right now, the actor's name, and Ray Fisher, Ray Porter. They had Zack Snyder and Deborah Schneider on a couple times. And so I just reached out to him, and, I was like, I wanted a voice for this book. I wanted someone who could do an introduction for this book that represented a big villain. I just thought that would be really cool, specifically for this book. There's a few similar tones that are in book 3 that just I felt would be carried so well if Ray Porter could do the thing. And it's a crazy thought, right? It's like, how, you know, you're just going to ask Ray Porter to do this intro, but it's crazy, but it's also simple. And that's what I did. I just reached out to my buddy Hussein. Shout out Hussein, by the way, if you're watching this. And I said, hey man, is there any way you could introduce me to Ray Porter? And he goes, yeah, I could see. And then it's kind of a crazy story because I got to meet him. So we actually had a meeting before he agreed to do the book, which was like, I was trying so hard not to like freak out. I was just like, okay, Gabe, don't freak out, just be normal, you know?
Yeah.
And it was really hard. And my buddy Ryan was like, dude, can I come with you to the meeting? I'm like, I mean, I guess. He's like, I just want to like, and so he came with me, and like we're all like proper and, you know, like polite the whole time. And then like after he left, we're just like, oh my fucking God, dude. Like, but no, it was crazy because I got to hear from his point of view what he thought about the books. And it was cool because like he said he looked at the cover and he looked at the name. He was like, Digital Lizards of Doom. He's like, he looked at the artwork. He goes, yeah, the artwork looks cool, but I don't know if this is really for me.
So I guess
right.
A couple of last questions that we have here. We had so many questions, but we saw that you guys were at Comic-Con. Like that, freaking awesome. Like how the hell did you guys pull that off? I mean, obviously lesser known comics and also Digital Doom. Digital Lizards of Doom. Sorry, it's been a long. I've been up since 3:30 at my other job. I'm sorry.
Oh, good. You're good, man.
I'm just tired. But yeah.
I can't even say Digital Lizards of Doom sometimes. I'm just like, blah, 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 blah. So, and I wrote the thing. So, dude, you're good. Don't even worry about it.
But yeah, like we saw you guys were at Comic-Con, and hopefully one day we plan to be there one day. But it seems like you guys had a great time. Did you guys promote the book, and also did you get like good insights on stuff like that, like promoting and getting your name out there and hopefully getting more subscribers and stuff like that?
Yeah. So I spoke on a panel that was about it was called Video Games in Real Life. And they reached out to me about like 4 months before Comic-Con, and they said, hey, you know, we were reaching out because our panel is called Video Games in Real Life, and we want to talk to different people who have taken the inspiration from video games and the culture that video games brings and made it a part of their world in IRL, in real life. And so for me, I was like, oh, I was super honored, because I was like, that's something I've literally done. I've taken what video games have taught me, the lessons and these things, and I've put it into my career. I've made it a part of my career. Even though I'm not making video games, I'm making this story that is based on a video game world and how it's affecting all these different characters' lives. So, but yeah, it was really cool meeting people at Comic-Con, and I love conventions. The first time I met Mark in person was at LA Comic-Con, and we crushed that one together. And I don't know, those are some of my favorite memories so far with lesser known comics is conventions and meeting the team and working with the team. And it's like a battlefield, right? Like there's no blood or anything, but you're waking up early and you're like struggling to get to the booth on time. And then you're slinging books the whole day, and you're promoting your comrades the whole day. And then you go to sleep, but then you want to go to sleep, but you go back to the hotel, then you got to go out and network and talk to people. Yeah. And then you're just like drained, and then you all just did that together, and you're just like, yeah.
But it's all for the greater good. But gentlemen,
hold on. No, I'm sorry. I got one more question. I've been wanting to ask this. I've been wanting to get into this a little bit. So Digital Lizards of Doom, you guys both said that you were within music. The reason why I'm hype also about that is a segment that we've done also on this show is, or me more specifically, I like to highlight the influence between music and comics because they really go hand in hand. I've actually interviewed other local artists and talked about how it influences their performances or how comics have played a role within their music and their artwork. And I've gotten some pretty cool stories with that. So I'm just curious how you do both. How is that connection? It's a band or is it a duo? Because I listened to a little bit of your music actually, and it seems a lot more electronic. But just how do you have those two tie together? Is it just a coincidence that you have the same name on them, or do they tie together more than that? Like, can you go a little bit in on that?
Yeah, all of the songs actually reference things that happen in the book, or at least like characters. And there's actually a character who hasn't been introduced yet, who actually wrote all of the songs. And the idea behind it is there's this traveler who exists in the Digital Legends of Doom universe that was also trapped there by Pineapple Pete, and he's overseeing all of these things that are unfolding in this world. And Pineapple Pete has like basically forced him. He's like, write me a bunch of songs and I'll let you leave. So he's like trapped in this universe. And so Pineapple Pete, meanwhile, is selling all of these songs to different universes. And so some of that music has made it to our universe as well. And that's why it exists in our universe. So that's like
cool. Are you doing any performances with the band at the moment, or?
We just played a show with Kyle Gass from Tenacious D like 2 weeks ago.
Nice.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was so much fun. But right now I'm just trying to stay focused on the books. But we got hit up to play that show, and I was like, oh, we have to do it. I love Tenacious D and I love Kyle Gass.
Yeah.
But other than that, we're kind of just keeping it focused on the books right now. But there's another book that's coming out called Glory Hole that has a really cool like rock and roll vibe to it. Do you have Glory Hole on hand, Mark?
I don't, but we actually connected. One of the things that connected us right off the bat was we put a Misfits shirt on one of the characters from our from one of the other lesser known titles. And like, I think that's where Gabe was like, oh, what's your guys' deal? Like, so
Okay.
So we connected with people, we started talking punk and all that stuff. I think that was like where that initial connection was. Yeah.
There's a rumor too going around that Glory Hole is going to have Fred Kowalo, the sound tech for Ozzy Osbourne and Megadeth, doing the intro for her book. So
very awesome. I love these deep cuts, man.
Or not yet, but that's what I keep hearing on the streets.
Hey.
So it seems like you guys are pretty out there, and you guys are pretty awesome as well. Before we go, we have these questions we would love to ask you guys. So these are like rapid fire questions. So Russell, take number one. Go ahead.
This should be an easy one for you. Who is your favorite comic book publisher?
You want me to go, or I'm going to say Lesser Known Comics because I'll get in trouble if I don't.
All right. Second question is, oh, go ahead.
Okay. There.
Who is your favorite hero and villain?
You go, Mark.
Oh, I think Apocalypse has to be my favorite villain of all time from X-Men. Yeah, I quote him a lot.
What about your hero?
And your hero?
Oh gosh, I would say Magneto's one of those both sides of the coin, right? I gotta,
That's very true. Yeah, neither good or bad.
I feel like everybody goes for the villain first. I feel like everybody loves the villain.
Yeah.
All right. This is actually kind of a two-part question, but if you were to have any superpower, what would it be? Both of you answer this one.
Oh, man.
Oh, stopping time. That's mine.
Stopping time.
Yeah.
I think mine would be invincibility. Yeah.
Just invulnerable.
Yeah, invulnerable.
That's the second word.
Second part is, with said powers, would you be a hero or a villain?
I think I'd try to be a hero for a while, but if I was being honest with myself, I'd turn in. I don't know. I feel like I'd try really hard to be a hero, but I feel like that's once you put yourself in the spotlight, if you're a hero, you would just like, it would start sucking after a while.
Yeah.
Corrupt you, all the fame and stuff. Feel it. All right. So who is your favorite illustrator?
You take this one, Mark.
Oh gosh, I'm because I'm only looking at indie comic stuff all day. I'm only thinking indie comic illustrator.
That's fine.
That works.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. You answer first, Gabe, because I'm gonna add on what's it called.
My favorite illustrator. I would probably say Mark Irwin from DC Comics.
So,
the person I freak out most about is my buddy Dave Law. He's not with Lesser Known Comics yet, but he does Space Auditorium, and everything he does is just super dope. It's a indie comic Space Auditorium, like auditorium, like ODD, like it's odd, but yeah.
Very
by
awesome.
far my favorite person making art out there in the indie scene.
I'm gonna have to check out more of his work.
Number 6, who's y'all's favorite writer?
Ooh.
Tricky answer. Oh, that's a good question.
Which one was it,
Mark?
I was going to say. I was going to say. Have you guys read X-Men Grand Design?
No, but I've heard of it.
Yeah, Ed Piscor not only does the illustration done, but he does it's essentially like a history of the X-Men encyclopedia, but it's done in narrative form. I've read that book dozens of times. It's amazing.
What do you dislike about comic culture?
Go for it,
Mark. This sounds tricky.
I'll say.
I feel like you have more to say about this, anyways.
Gatekeeping, it doesn't matter if you are getting into it yesterday because even for me, we have a podcast called I Don't Know Shit About Comics because I'm new to it.
I should be on that comic.
Yeah.
I should be that podcast.
It annoys the shit out of me when those people who are just they want you to prove your bona fides to be unless you know all this stuff, you're not, and it's fuck off.
I feel like anime should have that because I think anime readers or manga readers and anime watchers are the biggest gatekeepers in the world. If you don't, and especially if you mess with their stuff, they really come at you. I mean, they really come at you, or you don't know shit about shit or whatever. Anime. I just can't condone. So anyway, but yeah, go ahead.
We saw that with Cowboy Bebop, the live action release.
Yeah.
I was a huge Cowboy Bebop fan. I am a huge Cowboy Bebop fan, and I mean that was one of the shows that got me into anime. Back when that was on Toonami.
Me too.
Back in the day, and the live action show. It was. I thought it was great. It was its own thing. It wasn't
different, but it was good different.
They changed a few things, but they were. I think that most of the things that they changed actually added to the story a little bit. Not going to say that I liked that more than the anime itself, but I didn't think that they were necessarily bad changes. Except for, why is my mind gonna go blank on me right now? The main female.
I mean, it's like Super Mario the game and Super Mario the movie. I both like them, but they're two separate entities. They're both great.
You like them because it's ridiculous.
But it's great though.
All right. No, it's your turn.
What is the one thing that you would like to possess in your collection?
Ooh.
They could be comics, statues, anything. What would you like to have?
I would like a I would like a film reel or a prop from Zack Snyder's Justice League.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
That'd be dope.
What about you, Mark? You got something?
Oh, the tough thing for me, like as a publisher, is like the artists retain like those original proofs, and I'm just like, that'd be so cool, right? Yeah, I love that idea of having like, this was the actual piece of paper that it started on, right? Before it got scanned in and everything.
Bugs Bunny was on this piece of paper.
There is a website where you can get like sell work from movies and stuff. I know, and some comic work and stuff. I'm gonna have to remember what that is. Maybe send you a link. Maybe you can find something that way. My last one. He's got one more question for you after me. My last question is: if you could pursue any other profession, what would it be? Other than comics. Hitman? What, said that fast? Hold on.
Yeah. I heard there's good money in that.
Good answer. Mark?
Yeah, I would love to play music again. I talk to my buddies that tour, around the country and the world and stuff like that. And I'm always just like, dude, that sounds so rad,
Where can I check out some of your music?
So the only thing I got still out there is actually, so even though I played punk and stuff, growing up, I play occasionally some bluegrass-ish stuff. So that's a ish. It's all recorded in Nashville. So It sounds like a Californian out in Nashville recording with like fiddle players, mandolin players and all that. And that's Cougar Ranch is the name of that.
Cougar Ranch. Okay. I'm still going to look it up.
Would you want to record at Sun Records one day?
I'm always down to play music. Yeah.
Really nice. And gentlemen, last but not least, a question for both of you. If you had a chance to spend a week in your favorite world, where would it be?
Oof.
Dave, you're on our screen. Go first.
I would probably, I don't know, like Dead or Alive beach volleyball, I guess. Like, yeah, probably Dead or Alive beach volleyball. I think, yeah, that'd be cool.
I'd probably pick Westworld pre-Robot Uprising. Like that scene.
Then you gotta live through the whole story though. You're gonna be there for the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, I feel I might make it out alive. So yeah.
Resourceful.
Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us here at Comic Cave Podcast. We wish you guys all the best. And there was also, I have a personal question, not a personal request. Can you guys send us some comics? The first 2 issues, maybe, possibly. Hey.
Hit us up with the address, and we'll get a care package out your way.
Sweet.
Thank you guys so much. And once again, where can the audience find you? Where can the Comic Cave Podcast audience find you guys? Instagram, also Facebook. Give us y'all's social media.
I'm at Digital Lizards of Doom, all one word, on Instagram, or just at DLOD World on everything else. And then Mark?
lesserknowncomics.com is a great place to start. It also gets you directed to Kickstarters and things like that. And then at Lesser Known Comics for Instagram is always the best place to start off for us.
Awesome. Well, we're gonna hopefully we have this up by next week. And but thank you guys so much once again. Russell, any closing arguments?
Arguments, not. But I'm excited.
Also, Comic Cave fans, we have some great and exciting news coming up. We can't say it just now, but we definitely have some stuff coming up here in the Houston area. So if you're in the Houston area, come on down and we'll give you that answer maybe on another episode. Who knows? But once again, thank you so much, Lesser Known Comics and
Thank you.
Lizards of Doom.
Digital Lizards of Doom, you guys. I can't wait to read issue 3. And also they can go to your Kickstarter to help out for issue 3 as well. And also, I hope you guys keep on the ball rolling, and maybe one day we'll go to the West Side and visit you guys, and also have you a music conversation with you guys.
Yeah, actually, hold on real quick once we end this conversation, because I still want to talk to you guys unrelated stuff.
But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Chris, and as always, I'm here with my head of life mate, Mr.
Russ,
and the Digital Lizards of Doom. I got it. Until next time, peace.
Peace.